So today we're going to take a look at a couple of products sent over by FotoDiox. We have the Shark Cage for the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera. We also have a lens mount adapter, which is kind of like a lens support for a rail system. So they sent these parts over, so we're just going to unbox them and see how everything looks. So over here we have the Shark Cage. They have an HDMI adapter here, a little Type D. I guess that goes into the cage so that if you were going to plug in a monitor to your BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera, you wouldn't plug it directly into the camera over and over again. You'd use this adapter to keep your BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera HDMI port safe. And I'm assuming there's a lock on here, so we'll take a look at that, and that's probably what this adapter is for. Got some instructions over here, how to assemble it, all the pieces. All right, so we have a top handle over here. And over here we have the main BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera cage, or the Shark Cage. And these handles are real wood. You can remove the handles by taking off 2 screws here on the side. But that is real wood right there. We've got a 15 mil base plate, so this is where you would add your rails. And it's a quick release system. They've also given us 2 15 mil rods. I'm not quite sure what the length is, maybe somewhere around 10 inch or so. I'll measure that later. We've got some hardware. Put everything together. And then a little box here that has a tool. This is a shark bite tool. And that will help you clamp everything down, clamp down all the knobs on the cage. It even has a little bottle opener at the end here. And this is the same pattern that you'll find on the GoPro. So this is actually used to tighten up the knobs on the GoPro so that you don't get any slippage. And they've actually designed all the knobs around their cage to be the same way. So you would use this as leverage on the knob just to tighten everything down. So let's go ahead and start assembling it, and we'll see what we get. All right, right away, there's a little adapter that's placed underneath the cage here. Now, if you don't want to use a base adapter at all, I guess you could just use the cage by itself. But if you want to use a rail adapter, you could put this adapter back on here. But you have to take it off to get the screw underneath the camera. But once you have your camera in here, there's probably no reason it needs to come out. We also have a screw up on top here, so it actually traps the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera both on the top and on the bottom. So it's pretty much locked in there. So once it's in here, it's not going to move at all. Pretty solid cage. And then over here you have access to all of your ports. So there are little plastic screws that get placed here on the ports so that if you line them up together, you can pinch a cable. So you can pinch your HDMI or audio cables here by just running these along the side. And they're just clear plastic thumb screws, so really lightweight, and it shouldn't mess up any of your cables. So for instance, we're going to attach this Type D cable that they provided for us. And we'll hook it up to the cage, and then we'll lock it down. There you go. So we just pinched it up with these little plastic thumb screws here. And now anytime we want to plug a monitor to our BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera, we would use this adapter. And this is also a full HDMI, so we can use a full HDMI to full HDMI cable. And by connecting and disconnecting it from here, we will prevent damage from happening to the camera or wearing out that HDMI port. Instead, we'll just be using this cheap adapter, which eventually, if it gets ruined at some point, we could just throw it away. All right, so we just installed the 15 mil rods here. Now you notice the design of the clamps here. You can tighten them by hand, and they should hold pretty well. These rods probably won't slip out at all. But should you need to torque it down, you would use this shark bite tool, place it over the knob, and then crank it down. Very easy, and that'll lock it down solid so that you get no slippage at all. All right, now let's get a lens on here. I chose to use a very long lens so we could see how their lens support works. So here's a lens support. That's what it looks like over here. You've got two knobs on each side. Again, these knobs are designed to work with this little tool here so you can clamp it down. In the middle you have a spinner and a lock. So once you loosen the lock in the center, you use the spinner and you can adjust the height of the lens support. So the lens support slides over the front. And you basically adjust the height of the lens support so it fits under the lens. Then you lock down the centerpiece so that middle part will no longer shift. And then you'll use a tool to cinch down the sides over the clamps. And that'll prevent it from moving. So this is a universal lens support so that if you're using bigger lenses, your camera is not going to have all that weight. This will support the lens as well as if you're using a follow focus or anything. As you're pulling focus, that lens won't wiggle on the frame or on the body. So that gives you a really solid support. And it just has a rubber pad on this U, so you could just use it pretty much with any lens. You just want to place it somewhere where it's not messing with the focus ring or with the zoom ring. So you have to find the right position on your lens. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. This is the Shark Cage for the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera. Now FotoDiox does make cages for a bunch of different cameras, so take a look at that. This one has real wood handles here, a top handle on top. Now, even though it has a lot of holes, there's actually not a lot of mounting points. There's only a few right here on the back side, one here on the front here, one on the back, and a cold shoe. But the rest of these holes are not threaded. Now remember, you have a couple of threaded options here at the top. Not much on the side here, no access to the sides. So just a few mounting options here on the top. Comes with the 15mm rails, a quick release base system to disconnect it from the rails. Remember, you have all of your locks here on the side. There are these plastic thumb knobs, and then you can use this tool here to tighten up the knob so that you get no slippage out of the 15mm rails or even at the top clamp over here. So this is the Shark Bite tool. And if you have any other questions, take a look at their website, FotoDiox.com, or you can ask me questions over at the blog, Cheesycam.com.